Congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs, Super Bowl champs. And I had to bring in my guy, ALLEN. What up, dog?
I'm trying to think right now. Like Philadelphia Eagles, we kind of need them in the Super Bowl for like the foreseeable future because they've been in some classics. To me, regardless of the finish, I thought last night was a classic, and there's not much that I don't that could dispute that based on the amount of entertainment we got on both sides of the ball.
I mean, bro, as a Giants fan, you're just telling me that we want to have the Eagles in the Super Bowl. What the fuck are we doing? What is this?
I I mean, we want to be objective here. We want entertainment.
Nah, you ain't kidding, bro. That was from the first drive of the game, dude. Eagles go out, score a touchdown, effortless, right? Was it a 10 or 11 play drive, whatever it was? But it it just looks so easy to them. And then Kansas City comes back and they answer with a touchdown. And I just turned to my buddy Zach. I was watching the Super Bowl at Dark Horse Sports Club. They threw this massive, dope ass event at War Studios. And I just turned to my buddy Zach and I go, dude, I think this is going to be a classic. He's like, yeah. I was like, it just feels like it, man. Both of these offenses, just from the beginning, you had a feeling that a stop was not going to be possible, at least in my opinion, Alan, watching that. And you're right, it did turn out to be a classic. But I am a little offended by you saying you want the Eagles in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I know. I probably
You're
should have
also
watched
in
my
the
word. I'm just
NFC, bro. You're also in the NFC. You're a Falcon fan. You can't be saying this.
I mean, there's no hope for that. Like I'm looking at it right now, rosters wise. Although we'll get into the future with the Eagles. Wow, they have a lot of free agents, and I feel like I don't know. Looking at these two teams, like the Eagles, I feel like this is like their most stacked team. I don't know if they could top this. While the Chiefs, I don't think they'll have. I'm not saying they're not talented, but I feel like the Chiefs they have some holes in some positions where there's players that are very inexperienced. Like I think almost half their defense is on rookie contracts. Like to me, the Chiefs are going to get better, which is scary. Well, I'm not sure if the Eagles could get much better than the current roster that they have.
If you are a Chiefs fan, if you are someone who wants to bet on the Chiefs, if you are a fan of greatness or if you're a fan of Pat Mahomes, the fact that they won the Super Bowl despite losing a $30 million wide receiver, and they're already paying their quarterback north of 45, 50 million, I think, on the cap, which usually means that it's gonna handicap your team, right? You're gonna lose this lineman, you'll lose this receiver like they did, you'll lose this linebacker or corner, but they lost pieces and they still won the Super Bowl despite not having Tyreek Hill. Pat Mahomes answers back with his best season in many people's opinions, wins his second MVP, and then they win the Super Bowl without having the luxury of having a cheap quarterback. I think this is the beginning of a team that, bro, what we've seen so far, dude, 5 straight conference championship games. We've been talking about it the last couple of weeks. Third Super Bowl. He wins his second Super Bowl. This team ain't going anywhere, bro. You are absolutely right.
And we also have to give kudos to coaching. Like I think
Yeah.
in the preview, I would not discredit it, but I didn't know it was be that much of a coaching discrepancy. Like Andy Reid, once again, solidifying his status as one of the true all-time greats. Steve Spagnuolo, we all know about playoff Spags, Super Bowl Spags. I thought was a masterpiece yesterday. I know look Hurts got his yards, and the Eagles did score 35, but considering the circumstances, I think there were moments where you saw, especially with the linebacker play, which we'll definitely get into. Wow, Spags definitely dialed up some blitzes that riled Hurts a little bit. So the coaching staff, and I don't know what the enemy's future is, but what they have with the coaching staff and the roster, and how they handle themselves, especially on the O line. It's just what a well constructed unit, and these young players are bound to get better. And watching that game, like they're gonna go get a receiver because I think they only had 80 yards yesterday with the receiver position, and you could tell like this team desperately needs a better vertical threat. So the fact that they have some clear, evident holes and they won the Super Bowl, I think everyone should be terrified of that.
I kind of want to go in chronological order throughout the game. And within breaking down that, we can touch on takeaways or turning points, whatever it might be. But, dude, early on, it looked like both Hertz and Mahomes were firing on all cylinders. Like we mentioned, Eagles 75-yard drive in 11 plays, and Goddard caught a couple passes. Devontae Smith had a monster game. AJ Brown also had a monster game. And early on, my biggest spotlight was going to be on AJ Brown, and he had a remarkable game on his standards, close to 100 yards, him and Devontae Smith. But the thing that was very apparent to me, Alan, was the quarterbacks were going to be able to do whatever they wanted. And they both did pretty much whatever they wanted. And Jalen Hurts on that first drive, and even throughout the game, he delivered in a big spot, dude. Did you feel the same way watching Jalen Hurts?
Absolutely, like multiple throws to Dallas Goedert. You want to talk about tight window throws on the deep corner, and then it was like another deep over across the middle of the field. Like it was just you didn't see this as past season. Like because I think Jalen Hurts always struggled when it came to throwing across the middle of the field. That's why I remember seeing his stats last year. So now you just see him making these true tight window throws and just having the confidence where I'm going to hit my receiver in stride regardless of the coverage. Just it's unbelievable. Like I don't think we've seen too many quarterbacks have gone from borderline liability to legitimately put the team on his back because there was real no running game yesterday, and he showed. And Niners and all the naysayers saying, "Oh, Jalen Hurts not a quarterback, make him into a thrower." Chiefs made him to a thrower through various stages of the game, and he delivered time and time again. So huge kudos to him. And for Eagles, you better be ready to pay him because this is your franchise quarterback.
Yeah, I think Jalen Hurts played an absolute perfect game with the exception of 8
Fumble.
seconds when he had the fumble
Yeah.
that got picked up and returned. He was 27 of 38 for 304 yards. He threw a touchdown. He got sacked twice, but both of them were BS sacks. Basically, they credited the Chiefs for sacks when he ran out of bounds at like the line of scrimmage or like a 1 yard loss. It's considered a sack. So he protected the football with the exception of that one play. 15 carries for 70 yards, scored 3 touchdowns on the ground, tied a Super Bowl record. And he answered all the questions. You're right. They're going to have to pay him, and I think you should pay him what he does for your team and as a leader. And he delivered, man. I think there was something interesting that happened over the weekend in the UFC also. I had to use a wrestling analogy, and I put this post out, Alan, how Jalen Hurts and Alexander Volkanovski both lost and came out their matchups better than they came in. Volkanovski went up to 155 to fight Islam Makhachev, loses a very close fight, lot of mixed reviews. I thought it was Islam's, but he put on a masterful performance, kind of exposed a lot of Makhachev, and maybe he's not as untouchable. And the narrative coming in was, dude, it's the height disadvantage that Volkanovski has, the size disadvantage, the wrestling of Makhachev, and he answered all the questions. And then on the flip side, when you look at Jalen Hurts, same conversation was happening with him coming in. Is his shoulder right? Can he live up to that big moment? Can he go toe-to-toe with Mahomes? And both of these guys, to use the wrestling term, they got over in losses. The talk of the town has been Volkanovski, and in a lot of circles, dude, and I feel like justifiably so, Jalen Hurts as well.
No one's going to dispute that, and I think it all just comes down to delivering that big spot, but also showing what your greater capabilities. We know what Hurts is capable as a runner. We know how he can make the linebackers miss the open field, but as a passer, where you're not necessarily dealing with pressure, but you're going against a pretty complex Steve Spagnuolo defense, and he really hasn't had to throw the ball in about a month in a big game. When you think, well, even more when you consider injury, like Giants and Niners games, you want to talk about game script. That could have been more favorable. So this was the first game in maybe 2 months where he really needs to deliver as a thrower, and he did a spectacular job. And I just think with that supporting cast, it's only going to get better because his rapport with Devontae Smith is just it's unreal. Like they always seem to be in sync, and it was great to finally see AJ Brown. I'm curious, the touchdown to AJ Brown. Were you a little concerned that was going to get picked? Because it just seemed like, oh wow, this seems to be throwing in traffic, and yet AJ Brown came down with it.
No, not that one, but there was one that AJ Brown made a defensive play on that prevented an interception on Thornwell, I believe it was Thornhill.
Mm-hmm.
That one,
Thornhill.
I thought was going to get intercepted. Dude, we got to show ourselves some love because we were spot on. We said that this was going to be a matchup in which he would have to throw. It was going to be one of the few situations this season where the Eagles weren't going to be in a positive game script. And he answered all the questions, as well as the pass catchers. Us two were both expecting a big game from A.J. Brown. I even cut up a clip last week, which I'm going to repost again. Silent golf clap for us on that one. We said Dallas Goedert was going to have a big game. He had 6 for 60, had some really important catches on a lot of those drives. He didn't score a touchdown, kind of ruined one of the parlays as the D-gen that I am, Alan. But he had a monster game as well. He went over all of his catches and yardage props. A.J. Brown went over all of his props, and he scored a touchdown, which we liked. Devontae Smith, the same thing. And they all delivered, man. What was astonishing to me, Alan, was they couldn't do nothing on the ground outside of Jalen Hurts, bro. I did not see that one coming.
No, not at all. Because guys like Nadi and Saunders, like it's just the Chiefs don't have like known interior defensive tackles, obviously besides Chris Jones, who's all pro. But I think the one thing I could say that I got a prediction right was Nick Bolton. High variance. There's times where he looks like an all pro. There's times there he looks like he shouldn't be starting this league. But we saw the best Nick Bolton and Willie Gay. They were taking on blocks. It seemed like they were in the right position numerous occasions to spot those run pass options. They neutralized Hurts quite a bit. And then you talk about the fumble. I don't think it was just a free play. Like Nick Bolton put himself in a position to make that stop, and he did, and it proved to be a game-changing play. There was another big 3rd-and-1 stop that he got on Miles Sanders where they ran like a toss, and I think Bolton broke through 2 blocks and made a tackle. Like, it was one of the best linebacker performances you've ever seen in a Super Bowl. Like, he made that much of a difference. So, I didn't get the game prediction right, but it was good to see Nick Bolton. I was like, all right, these linebackers, they're going to have to show out if the Chiefs are going to hold together. And, they did their thing. So, I think that's the big reason why the Eagles couldn't run the ball, which was, like you said, super surprising because they've pretty much built their identity off that. As great as their passing game is, the Eagles have overwhelmed so many teams running the ball. And, Sanders was a non-factor in game ball. He was kind of more used as a passing option.
You mentioned a couple of names there that we must highlight because we know about Mahomes, we know about Kelsey, we know about some of these big name players on the Chiefs. However, dude, their last 3 draft classes, and in particular the last 2, Alan, I think it's fair to say they hit home runs on it, especially with them winning the Super Bowl. Willie Gay, 2020. Cree Humphreys, Nick Bolton, Trey Smith in 2021. They get rid of Hill, and I know not draft purposes, but they get rid of Hill. They acquire some draft picks, and they replace Hill's production with Tony, MVS, and Juju. And then in last year's class, McDuffie, Karlaftis, shout out to the Dirty Greek. We got another one with a Super Bowl, Allen. Lambs up, baby. Lambs up. Sky Moore, Brian Cook, Jalen Watson in the secondary. And, bro, Isaiah Pacheco. Watson and Pacheco, 7th-round picks. Pacheco's 76 yards and a touchdown.
Have you ever seen a small running back run so angry? Like, I'm trying to think of anyone besides Devontae Freeman, and I don't want to mention Devontae Freeman because we're like, oh God, Falcon. No, always has to bring up a Falcon. But like, I've never seen a small running back just run so angry in my life.
I got one, bro. Come on, baby. 4-4 Bulldog. Bradshaw.
Oh yeah,
Bradshaw.
He ran with evil intentions.
He was pissed off when he was running. But Pacheco way more explosive too. Like, dude, there's been some times throughout the year where I'll see Pacheco make a big play, and I forget that it's not Tyreek. Like, he kind of looks like Tyreek in a way too.
And he wears number 10.
He wears number 10. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'll watch it, I'll be like, oh shit, oh wow, that's not Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, that and Sky Moore were in 24. Look, I'm all for number flexibility, but this is a little uncalled for.
But dude, like, big ups to the Chiefs organization, man, because you turned 2 7-round picks into players that played in the Super Bowl and had a big part of your success all year. And you hit on these draft picks. Trey Smith was a 6th or 7th round pick as well on the offensive line. And there was this video that one of the guys from Big Blue Banter put up where Trey Smith comes on like a trap block and he takes out a DN on the Eagles, and then he takes out Travis Kelce too, and then he helps up Kelce. But it's like, this guy was a
Yeah.
6th or 7th round pick, man, and obviously Creed Humphreys, we know about him too. But you got to show love to the Chiefs organization for, you pay your quarterback, but these assets that you acquire from the Tyreek Hill move, and just in general, the way you're approaching your draft. As fans, we watch the first round, maybe the second round. If we know a guy that should have went in day one is going day two, we'll say, oh, this is an A+ draft. That's why we don't really know until later on. Like, dude, this is an A++ draft for the Chiefs. When 6, 7 of these guys that you drafted made plays in the Super Bowl.
That's when it all comes together. And look, I salute to Les Snead. I know it's fun to say F them picks and wear the T-shirt, but ultimately success is built through the draft. And I think the Chiefs are now the prime example for that. How they've constructed their roster, especially when you have a superstar quarterback that is going to command the contract that he has. Like if you're going to build a sustainable contender, this is how it's got to be done. Your scouting has to be on point. You have to be able to take chances. There's going to be times where there might be a few character concerns. Sometimes you just have to gamble, and it's worked time and time again for the Chiefs. And salute to Brett Veach, Andy Reid, the rest of the executives. Like time and time again, they just deliver, and just a testament. Just it shows how much the draft, the significance of it, but especially those late round picks. Like you look at the non-first rounders, like Creed Humphrey is arguably the best set. I think once Jason Kelsey retires, Creed Humphrey will probably be the best center in the league, and then Trey Smith's the stutter right guard, and talked about Pacheco. It's just how deep they are. It's extraordinary.
The Eagles defense, we haven't gotten to them. We haven't talked about Mahomes much. We'll get into that now. One thing that was a question we both were asking one another was, dude, the Eagles' most sacks in NFL history in a single season. It never felt like this was a defensive line that you'd be telling people about 5, 6, a decade from now, right? Like it wasn't one where they had a lot of guys contribute to the pass rushing, but the Eagles defense had 0 sacks yesterday. And that was something that was going to be a big matchup in the game. And there were some comparisons on social media, Alan. I don't know if you caught this. People were comparing the Bucs defensive line versus the Chiefs offensive line then to this one on Sunday.
Which Bucs team?
I'm talking about
the two.
So the Bucs team that won the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. I saw some people drawing.
I was thinking about 02 Bucs.
Oh,
they got Hall of Famers.
That's different. Warren Sapp and that
Simeon Rice.
Simeon Rice, yeah, Derek Brooks over there too. No. I'm talking about this Bucs team that played the Chiefs, right? I saw some people on my timeline on Twitter saying that the Chiefs offensive line is a mismatch the way it was in that Bucs Super Bowl, and I couldn't disagree more. I just didn't want to tweet at them and then start this whole dialogue. But I think if that was a part of your handicap or your breakdown, I think you couldn't have been more wrong, because in 2020, the Chiefs had 3 new guys on the offensive line going into that Super Bowl, but 4 new starters. They moved like one guy from the left side to the right side. So he was playing an entirely different. Yeah, he played an entirely different position than what he played in the regular season. So you really had 4 new starters on your offensive line going up against that pass rush and that front 7 against Tampa. Where this one, everyone was healthy. Everyone was healthy. And if you heard Orlando Brown, you heard Trey Smith, you heard Creed Humphreys, they said, yo, we heard you guys saying Hassan Reddick got a lot of money and bets to be MVP yesterday. Sue, Fletcher Cox, all these guys, and they had nothing for that front for Kansas City. I think if you could give out an MVP to an entire unit, it had to be the offensive line for the Kansas City Chiefs yesterday.
I full agree with you there, and you have to give the huge kudos to them, because I don't think many people saw it coming, because the Chiefs' O-line has looked a bit vulnerable at times this season. But they put up a stealth performance. But we have to acknowledge the field. Like, I think the field definitely played a factor. Like, you look at Hassan Reddick, the amount of times he fell, and he's someone that relies on his get off, his bend. Right. Josh Sweat as well. Like, so I think the edge rushers, because like, look, Andrew Weil, he played the game of his life, and he was considered a liability at right tackle. But he held his own against Hassan Reddick. I just wonder, those field conditions, considering the amount of speed the Eagles have on the outside. I'm not talking about the interior. I'm talking about the outside. I think the conditions definitely played a factor there, and Chiefs admitted it too. I think some of the players like, yeah, it benefited us. So look, it doesn't matter now they won the Super Bowl, but I don't want to totally erase what the Eagles built. They still have a tremendous D line, albeit I think like 4 of them are free agents, so it's gonna be very hard to replace them.
A few things there. I think some of the issues with the Chiefs offensive line also comes from Pat Mahomes and him improvising a lot and him taking longer in the pocket. Like there's sometimes even yesterday where he completes a 5-step drop back, he's in the pocket, posture up, ready to throw, and then he rolls out. It's like, dude, at that point, how long could we block for you? Right. And he was able to scamper. Like he had a big run in the second half, which kind of was the backbreaker for the Eagles defense there on a play where he picked up, I think, like 25 or 26 yards on that long run. But can't you say the same thing about Frank Clark and Chris Jones and Karlaftis? They played on the same field too. So that's why to me
they didn't make an impact though either.
Right.
Do you really think they did much?
No, I don't think they did much, and Frank Clark didn't do much either. But I think both teams played on the same field. So
okay, yeah, I mean that's facts.
right. But I'm saying so like the hand that was dealt for the Eagles was also the same for the pass rushers for Kansas City.
Yeah, no one's going to dispute this fact. I just think the Eagles, kind of like the Cowboys, they have a lot of speed on their edge. They have a lot of guys that rely on that first step, rely on their bend. Like, Dallas had that bad record outdoors, and you look at guys like Parsons and Lawrence, et cetera. It's just, some teams are more built differently. I think the Eagles are just more speed, while the Chiefs are more power. So maybe that's my explanation for it. But look, there's no credible defense for it. The Chiefs, especially their tackles. So there's no questioning their interior. Like, Joe Tooney, we haven't mentioned yet. Joe Tooney handled Javon Hargrave. And Javon Hargrave has been playing at top 10 level all season. Joe Tooney has been one of the best pickups in the last, 5 years. Like, to me, when the Chiefs rebuilt their O-line after the Super Bowl debacle, Joe Tooney was like the first major move they made. And he's kind of been the face of their resurgence. So huge kudos to him. We know how good Humphrey and Smith are. But between Tooney's dominance and the tackles really stepping up their game, look, Chiefs deserved it.
Eagles defense. Last week when we were talking about it, I had some concerns, and I feel validated now after what I saw. The Eagles defense from week 5, Allen, they played 20 quarterbacks.
20.
They played 0 Pro Bowlers. In the games in which the quarterback was Dak Prescott, Pat Mahomes, Trevor Lawrence, Aaron Rodgers, they gave up 33 points per game. And the Trevor Lawrence game was in a wild hurricane rainstorm. When you're playing Daniel Jones and Davis Webb and Taylor Heineke and Carson Wentz and Justin Fields.
Daniel Jones in this category. Come on.
I mean, you have to for this case, right? Like, look, I love Daniel Jones. Can't believe I'm saying that. It's going to come back to bite me when he's making $48 million a year. But Daniel Jones and the Vanilla Vic stuff, it's cool, it's funny, ha-has and hee-hees. But those are the quarterbacks that you're playing. And were you really a number one defense? Yeah, you play who's on your schedule. So I get that. And I always have defended teams like Philly saying that, look, man, I'm playing who's on my schedule, and I'm also taking care of business. Like, I'm beating these teams by 2-3 touchdowns. So it's not like Minnesota. That was an argument that we were making all this time. But, you play Kirk Cousins in prime time. You're playing you played Houston, right? You're playing the Houston quarterback. You're playing the Pittsburgh quarterback. I don't even know if Kenny Pickett was the quarterback then. You're playing, you're playing Andy Dalton.
Tennessee.
Yeah, you're playing Tennessee. And then when you're playing the best quarterback of all time, in my opinion, Patrick Mahomes, no wonder it's a culture shock. And, we haven't even gotten to the giant elephant in the room, which is the officiating. But did the officiating have anything to do with Mahomes being 13 of 14 in the second half for 2 touchdowns, and the one incomplete was a throwaway? What big play did this Philly defense make? Dude, the only play that they made was, I think it was Edwards, just smoked Pacheco. And then Pacheco, like, not limped off, but he missed like a play or two, and then he came back. But there was no pass breakup. There was nothing. They didn't do anything, bro.
And they invest a lot in that defense. And
Yeah.
I think it really does come down to coaching, though. Like Jonathan Gannon is someone that's been talked about in these coaching cycles the last 2 years, and I never understood why. He's someone that never really makes adjustments. Plays a very vanilla defense. And just look at the 2 touchdowns to Tony and Moore, both the exact same play call. And you look at the Jacksonville game, the Jaguars scored twice off that reverse end around where the receiver pivots and then goes back out. And it seems like the Eagles just were so fixated on playing man coverage in these scenarios where it's just like you're seeing what they're running. Why aren't you adjusting? So I do think a lot of it comes down to coaching. I'm not, look, they got dominated in the trenches for sure. Like the Chiefs ran the ball very effectively, so you got to give them credit there. But the lack of adjustments going against arguably the best play caller, the best coaching staff in the league, it's going to come back to haunt you, and it did, because you can't allow wide open touchdowns like that in the fourth quarter, like complete coverage bust. Like, look, every coordinator is going to put together their structured plays where it's just like, all right, we're going to get this guy open. But we're talking about near the red zone, like to allow 2 uncontested catches in the red zone for a touchdown is just inexcusable. So I do think coaching plays a big part of it. Even though, look, defense, particularly the front 4, definitely didn't deliver.
It's crazy how if you pulled a meat and you fell asleep throughout the whole Super Bowl, like I did at Super Bowl 50, as I was telling that story last week, and say good times, right? Oh, you were with me, bro. You were with me. Yeah. We were. Oh man, really good times.
You missed Von Miller and Von Miller and Von Miller.
Yeah, I just remember kissing Joe's TV when they showed Eli Manning on it, and then I just remember waking up. The game was over.
A pregame taken too far.
But yo, say you pulled a me, right? And this is why football is incredible, and this is why sometimes greatness takes over, like Pat Mahomes did. If you got hammered and you passed out, and then you woke up at like 8 o'clock, the first thing you do is you open up your phone and you don't check the score, but you check the box score. Eagles 25 first downs to Chiefs 21, 417 total yards of offense, 72 plays in total to the Chiefs 53. 11 of 18, Allen, on third down.
That's the most mind-boggling stat.
Right?
Crazy. 11 for 18.
Yeah, 2 for 2 on fourth down. You had over 300 yards passing. You look at Mahomes, 182 yards passing. You're like, oh, bro, we kept them in check, right? And then to me, the craziest thing, bro, you had the ball for 35 minutes. Isn't the recipe and the most vanilla take, keep the ball out of Mahomes' hands, you'll win? They did.
It is.
They did. And they ended up still losing, which was wild to me. But, Allen, I think the game was lost when they kicked the field goal in the third quarter, when there was 24-21, and they kicked the field goal to make it 27-21. As someone who invested some Benjamins in the Kansas City Chiefs to win that game, I was just saying, thank the good Lord, thank all the football gods, all the gods that they're kicking a field goal here.
Yeah, and Sirianni, we know how aggressive he is. Like, this guy that he's starting to build his identity off running the ball on 3rd and 7 to go for on 4th down, which I find to be cool if you have that much confidence. But it's just, wow, you're known for being this aggressor, and then you're kicking that field goal. Because Andy Reid is notorious for being a bit conservative. Yeah, he likes to let loose every now and then, but he'll kick a field goal on 4th and 1 at the 23-yard line. We've seen that over the course of 2 decades. But Sirianni's built as this aggressor. So for that to happen, we're just like, wow, definitely didn't see that coming. Maybe a little too much faith in the defense.
And also a 17-play drive, bro, to end in a field goal. Mm-hmm. You took 7 minutes and 45 seconds off the clock, and that's where I feel like they lost the game. Because the more I think about it, dude, I would only kick a field goal in those kind of situations if it means that it makes the game a 2-possession game. And in this situation, you're only up 3. Why kick a field goal? A touchdown still gives the other team the lead. Where if I'm up 7, if I'm up 6, wacky scenario, I'm up 6. I'll kick a field goal there because now I'm up 9, or I'm up 10. And now you need to 100% guaranteed fact, no opinion can deny it. You need to touch the ball twice. Kicking a field goal there, especially against Mahomes, which the MO is, yo, how many times does this dude win games because the other team just settles for field goals? That's where I feel like Philadelphia lost his game.
So when are you going to learn? At this point, all across the league, when are you going to learn? It's just you could look. I know you want to have confidence in your defense. I know that we built this roster. They're gonna get our defense is gonna stop them at some point. Brandon Graham or Javon Hargrave will get a sack, or big play Slade's gonna pick them off. But you're going against a true juggernaut. You're going against a team, an offense that doesn't make mistakes, has a powerhouse O line, and just big play threats across the board. It's just when you're in a shootout like this, when it's just like you need touchdowns, just go for it at this point. And it's not like the Chiefs defense was doing a whole lot to stop you other than a few third downs. Even though I commend Spagnuolo for his play calling at times, it was still very much the Eagles, marching downfield. Like what, they have 2 punts the whole game, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so it's strange that for a team that's built on so much confidence and bullying teams, they showed a little bit of hesitancy, and they didn't bully the Chiefs across the trenches. They got a good battle, and I think them not being able to bully the Chiefs pretty much cost them.
2 punts for each team in this game. Yeah, I mean, dude, look, they combined for 73 points. It was a fun game. It was an explosive game and a lot of big plays. I have a couple of questions that I have to ask you to get your thoughts on it. Is this a epic comeback or epic collapse?
Definitely not collapse. That'd be harsh. I don't think it's epic comeback either. I just think better team won.
Are you? Do you have a box of tissues next to you to wipe the tears when I read you this next one?
No, but why is this going to be related to a certain score from 6 years ago?
Yeah.
Like, why is this coming up?
So the reason why I mentioned collapse or comeback is because the Chiefs trailed the Eagles by 10 points at halftime of Super Bowl 57. Teams that trailed by 10 or more points at halftime were 1-26 in the Super Bowl era.
Oh, I mean, what's 10 points though? Like, come on, like, we're really going to use that stat?
For those that don't know, Alan is a massive, massive Atlanta Falcons fan, and it's still a sensitive subject,
It's not. It's just like it is. It's just like, okay, like I don't understand how 10 points is a collapse. Like, you're going against the greatest ever. When let's push that conversation. Like, he's got to be up there at this point. I don't care that he's 27 years old. I think his body of work, his resume at this point, you could put him against anybody. And the only critique you have against him, he doesn't have the longevity yet. But let's see, come 2029, you'll see a longevity.
Bro, you're talking to someone who's been spearheading this conversation. Like, I pulled up a tweet. I said in 2020, I said best to ever do it already. And yeah, was that like just, trying to go viral or some shit? Yeah, maybe. But bro, again, 3 Super Bowls in 5 years, 2 MVPs, 2 Super Bowl championships. He's 27. He won a Super Bowl despite getting paid. Not despite in his sense. Like, obviously we want him to get the bag, but we know the history of the expensive quarterback. He doesn't really get to this point to win a Super Bowl. I mean, bro, like, put his 5 years up against anyone's. It's what he's done. And especially when he got stripped of his main weapon, he's had Kelsey, which, yeah, he's going to go down as one of the best. Shannon Sharp already said that he might be the best tight end of all time. I still think Gronk takes that one. 2 completely different tight ends, by the way, right? Like, Kelsey was more of a hybrid wide receiver who can also play tight end, where Gronk was just a mismatch and just a physical specimen at that position and a touchdown machine. But yeah, bro, like, what more do you need to see from Mahomes? If Mahomes retired tomorrow, first ballot Hall of Famer, and why? Is it because he hasn't played 20 years? We can't start having this conversation? I don't get that. I think I think already
Yeah.
he's the best quarterback of all time. Like talent wise,
Uh,
Brady is the most accomplished because he's played longer too. But I think Mahomes already has that title.
I don't know how many quarterbacks can make like those receivers and put together an efficient offense. Look, we know how tremendous Kelsey is, but their receiving corps is pretty limited. Like they know how to block. I'll give them that. Like Juju's, Valdez, Scanlon, they could block, but they don't have anyone that could really stretch the field consistently. They were all banged up, coming out of that Bengals game. It's just his receiver corps. They try to reload, but I don't think they did a particularly good job at it. If you want to critique the front office, was like the fact that Mahomes made this work. I think it's one of the biggest achievements he's ever had over the course of his career because I just don't see many quarterbacks making this work. Like not to knock Dak or even a Lamar, but I think they struggle with this receiving corps. For Mahomes to do what he did, because some people are like only 182 yards. I'm like, do you see who he's throwing to outside of Kelsey? Like, it does leave a lot to be desired, and to do this also with serious ankle issues. Like, we saw him a couple of times limping. He's as gutsy as it gets, and some of the throws he makes, it's at least 2 or 3 times a game your jaw drops when he makes a throw. Like I think there was one where he hit Kelsey low, but it was like one of the few times the Eagles got pressure. I think it was Josh Sweat, and it just seems like whenever the pocket's collapsing, he rarely makes a mistake. We see quarterbacks crumble. To me, he just steps up and he throws off balance, and those off balance throws somehow lead to accurate throws.
Bro, all of his receivers were let go by their teams with no hesitation. Like,
Yeah,
Tony, take him. Don't want him. Juju, go ahead. Test free agency. Bet on yourself. MVS, no problem. Take him. Aaron Rodgers probably would have had 800 more yards and 12 more touchdowns if this guy could catch deep passes. And then you look, Juju, 7 for 53. He was very productive. He had 9 targets, led the team in targets.
mhm.
And he made some big plays on third downs or on like 2nd and 11s where he would pick up 9 yards. So he played a big role yesterday. But don't get it twisted, bro. Like it was Kelsey and a bunch of dudes. And for Mahomes to do what he did to win MVP, that's why it's wild to me. No other guy, no other guy in the league. Like we saw Rodgers struggling. With all young guys and guys that were unproven. And then you look at Mahomes. Mahomes is like, all right, Juju's proven for sure. But Pittsburgh, no problem. Just get. It's
He's a
like
possession guy. We know what he is at this
right,
point. He's a
right.
possession receiver. Yeah.
Uh,
So I think that's why he. Do you think it's also because that's why he got more emotional? I feel like this one was far more earned and a lot more harder to get than his first one. To me, this was just a real battle where it just like they had to scratch and claw for everything. Obviously the Niners won. It was very competitive, but they convincingly won that. Yeah, this one to me was just they had to pull out all the stops to get this Super Bowl.
yeah, and I also think that Philly was a better team than what the Niners had. And also,
Oh yeah,
let's not forget what the talking points were from April to September last year. Yo, no Tyreek Hill. Oh my God, it's the Chargers division. I was one of them too, bro.
a
Russ
lot
is
of
in the
people.
division. The Raiders. Mahomes is gonna regress. You don't think that meant something to him too? Where I did this without my main weapon and I did it with a bunch of dudes. Like, yeah, I think so. I think those conversations were had. And Andy Reid in the second half just completely just opened up the playbook and those motions where Sky Moore and Tony were just wide open on both of their touchdowns. And yeah, I think, and also when you lost the Super Bowl too, right? That was something that they were talking about where to get to a Super Bowl, win it, then to go back and lose it, that thing drove them and then last year losing in the conference championship game. So yeah, you had your ups and your downs, but your downs were pretty bad, dude. Like you lose the Super Bowl and then you lose at home in a conference championship game. That's why yesterday was so emotional for those guys, in my opinion, as well.
Agreed, and it had to leave a super bad taste in the mouth how the Bengals game unraveled because I think that was like the first and maybe only time in his career in a big spot Mahomes really let the team down. Like he was significantly at fault for that loss. Like he looked rattled in the pocket. It seemed like he had happy feet and he took some sacks that you would never expect him to take. So he was coming back with a vengeance, and he's kind of set the tone week 1. If you remember against the Cardinals, they stepped on the field and the game was over by the second quarter. And I just think once that week 1 game happened, they were on their quest towards making the Super Bowl.
We have to address the way the game ended because it's a big talking point. How do you feel about the holding call on Bradbury on the last drive?
So if this in the second quarter he had one that I think should have been called. It was a 3rd and 8 on Juju. They didn't call where his arms are pretty extended. It was end up being a no call. And then in this such a big spot, now they call it. So the lack of consistency hurts, but I will say when you extend your arms like that, you're making yourself a target. Like the way Juju ran that whip route, he goes inside, then he releases to the outside, and it's the way Bradbury's arms were. I could see why the refs called it. I don't agree with it, but you see that call time and time again where it seems like you're yanking on. But I definitely feel the outrage. I understand why Greg Olson, who once again did a phenomenal job, Fox, please value that man. But yeah, I could see why Eagle fans are outraged, and but it's just look. I think we've watched game for a long time. When you're a corner and in that position, and Bradbury admitted it, he held. I do think they should let him play from some aspect, but when you extend your arms like that, you're asking for it.
I feel as if it was a penalty. Does it suck that it happened on the last drive where the magnitude of it is like 10x? Yeah.
Mhm.
The timing of it sucks. I agree. But it was also the right call.
Yeah.
So I think both scenarios could be true. And it was the right call where he got held there. And you're right, because I was watching that game earlier in the second half, in the second quarter, I believe it was the play you were referencing, where Juju got mugged, and I was like, oh, so no flag. And that led to a punt.
Mhm.
Like that one was blatant as hell. This one, he did hold him there. It sucks that then that gives them the first down, automatic first down, which if there's one thing that needs to change, it's that. A defensive holding can't be an automatic first down, especially when the yardage doesn't make sense, right? When it's 3rd and 11 and a defensive holding leads to an automatic first down, that drives me crazy, bro. I've been bitching and moaning about this since like the beginning of having any sort of platform. But that's how it was the same thing, very reminiscent to the guy that hit Mahomes running out of bounds. It's like
Oh, Sai, yeah.
Osai, right? He hit
Mhm.
him late. It sucks that it happened on the last play of the game that then gives him 15 yards to kick the field goal while Kansas City's driving. But he hit him late there. And it was the same thing yesterday. He held him. So to me, it was
I thought the Sai was more blatant though. I think this you have a bit of an argument. I do agree with you, but I think that was far more blatant than this one. This one, I think you could make a case it wasn't, but
you're right.
yeah.
You're right that you can make a case, but I'm saying the timing of it was very similar. It happened on the
Oh yeah,
last drive where the Chiefs were driving on both. So they were both the right calls. It's just the timing of it that was unfortunate, dude.
yeah. And I don't think they're gonna bring replays back because that just they did that experiment. It just
Mm,
did not work. But ultimately, it's just I think you look at this type of game, it's just there's more things to happen than this one play. Like, yeah, it was a disappointing finish, but I do think Kansas City rightfully won. I thought they were significantly the better coach team, and defensively they made more plays. So I think they justifiably got it, even though for a classic like that to have a bit of a dud ending, it's why I think Patriots Eagles will probably be the Super Bowl I remember the most. That's like the most thrilling one compared to this one. Like, this one was fantastic. I'll give it like 9 out of 10, but I think the lack of a true memorable finish is why I say Eagles Patriots is probably the best Super Bowl in the past decade. If you're looking at it from a pure entertainment competitive standpoint.
Before we put a bow on this football season, is there anything else that you want to mention from this game?
It's once again Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy, my just another masterful coach before. It's the way they use motion, both especially the short motion like that. People always ask why can't teams double Kelsey? Just watch the playoffs and you'll see why. The amount of times they motion Kelsey, getting on the move to create these mismatches, they just know how to cause disruption within the secondary. Like you can't play in coverages for Kelsey because they're constantly motioning him. They're playing stack formations. Like it's just the way they use motion and then put together 2x2s or 3x1s. it makes it such a nightmare. And that's why the Chiefs can win a Super Bowl with the likes of Juju, Tony, and Valdez Scantling as their receivers. Like, yeah, you have the greatest quarterback arguably ever, and top two tight end ever, but it takes tremendous play calling to also get it done, especially going against teams like the Eagles and the Bengals. So once again, Andy Reid, future Hall of Famer, and I don't think he's going to retire. But man, if he retired, who could blame him? But I hope he has a couple of years left because watching Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes, it's an absolute treat.
Yeah, it's funny how we always try to anoint the new offensive guru. And it's like, bro, Andy Reid has like been that dude for 2 decades now. He was doing things early on in Philly that people hadn't seen before. And now, you get McVay, you get LaFleur, you get Shanahan. It's like, man, the old
And look
head
who's
is
coming to the
still
division now.
right.
I know the quarterbacks. I'm not believing the QB, but the true masterminds is now coming to the division. We get to see them twice a year. Sean
So
Payton.
so it leads me to the last thing I want to mention. Next year's Super Bowl odds already up. They don't hesitate over here in Sin City, bro. They got these odds up right away, Alan.
You got him up at 905. You're looking at it.
Right away, man. You know how I get down. So, rightfully so, Chiefs plus 600 as the favorite. I will say, I think moving forward, bro, I'm probably going to bet the Chiefs every year to win the Super Bowl. Only because from what we've seen so far, they're going to make the conference championship as long as Mahomes is healthy. And then you're never going to get a number as high as you will now. Because when the playoffs started, they were plus 175. In the middle of the season, they were like a 4-1 favorite. You're never going to get them, oh shit, they're 28-1, right? They're 50-1. You're never going to get that. So the Chiefs now are the new Patriots in the sense of if you're going to bet them as soon as it goes up on the board, because come Super Bowl, come playoff time, this is the highest number you'll be able to get with them. I remember there were a couple of years ago when I used to do the betting show with Impy. Impy would mention like, yo, we should just bet the Patriots now. They were like 7-1. He's like, this is as high as we're going to get them. And I was like, yo, you know what? That's a hell of a point. And that's the right point, too. So Kansas City plus 600. Then you got the Bills plus 850. You got 3 teams at 9-1, the Eagles, Bengals, and Niners. You have the Cowboys
Bills
at
over Bengals. Did they not just watch what happened a month ago?
what?
Bills over Bengals.
Listen, man, I think people are
Aren't you
just
surprised?
Yeah, I am surprised. But I
Yeah.
think public perception is thrown into this one where people are going to, like, people love Josh Allen, bro. They love Bills Mafia. So they're just going to blindly take money like they did this year. No team had more tickets and, like, news anchors and broadcasters picked them to win the Super Bowl more than the Bills, right? Like, they're a
I did
public
too,
team
yeah.
now. Yeah, a lot of people did, right? And that's a red flag, right? We're not going to pick the team, Allen, moving forward. A couple of takeaways. We're not going to pick the team that everybody is picking to win the Super Bowl. That didn't happen. You know what else happened yesterday? Vegas needed the Chiefs. The sports books needed the Chiefs. 2 hours before kickoff, 4 different $1 million bets came in on the Eagles. Everyone, it was like a 65-35 split tickets on the Eagles. And we were talking about it with Kenny. I was talking about it with you, man, how I would feel dumb not betting Pat Mahomes, the GOAT, as an underdog.
Yeah, and you called your shot and you got it. But yeah, thanks for educating me on that because I'm just curious because I think the Bills are kind of at a crossroads right now. Like it's hard to believe in them, but I think if you're looking to next year though, like the loss of coordinators will be a big talking point because you have Stryton leaving Philly, obviously D'Amico Ryans in San Fran, and potentially Lou Anarumo going to Arizona. Like if all 3 of them leave, these are huge adjustments because all 3 of them were hugely influential, particularly D'Amico Ryans in San Fran. I know San Fran, they get a new D coordinator all the time. Like they went from Saleh to Ryans pretty smoothly, but at some point, it's just you continue losing coaches or coordinators here. I do wonder how much of a lasting effect it's going to be. So that's something to keep in mind
Can I
for
give
the next couple of days.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right, dude. We saw it firsthand with Buffalo and the Giants. Like I think
They missed
revisionists,
Daboll.
they missed Daboll, bro. There's no other way to put it. They missed Daboll. Can I give you? I have 4 teams where I just want and we'll end the show with this. 4 teams whose odds kind of like, that's my reaction to reading them. And it's like a positive, like I'm going to be keeping track of these over the next couple of months.
I hope the lines are in this. Please let the lines be in this.
All right, so the lines are 25 to 1. They're not in this for me, but you're a little you got a little semi there for the lines, huh?
I'm just curious because they are America's team, man. Like, come on, the Fighting Dan Campbells are here. They have a top 5 pick. There's plenty of reasons to be excited.
Okay, I can see it. A team that I like at 20.
I mean, they have golf though, so like,
right,
yeah.
A team that I think could be interesting at 25 to 1 is Jacksonville, where another year of Trevor Lawrence with Peterson, and they, for as much as we clowned what they did in free agency last year, I think they got the reps, they got the big game experience. That game kind of was there for them to have against the Chiefs as well. Obviously, they had that epic collapse and comeback with the Chargers. I think the Jaguars at 25 to 1. I think you're not going to like this one, but I think the Jets could be interesting if they get Rodgers, which is heavily rumored.
Yeah, they got to get him though.
They got to get him.
They have to.
Yeah,
they have to. Then we could have that conversation. By the way, I think the Jaguars are going to take over the Chargers as your like second team. Like I think you're off the Chargers now, and because you've been riding Jacksonville for like 3 years now. Like you're the only one to talk about him with Urban Meyer, which we won't digress on that.
Yeah. Listen. We don't need to bring that up to the people. There's a lot of new people listening to the fans. They don't need to know about that one. All right.
Fair enough. But you know, you did call it this year, and I don't know. I feel like you do have a soft spot for the Jags, so I'm not surprised you mentioned them. I think since you pretty much have had to just burn all of your emotions with the Chargers, I think the Jaguars are going to be your team.
There's nothing I love more than stud young quarterbacks, bro. Trevor Lawrence.
So you were the Colts. You were the Colts all those years.
Yeah. And look, I'm going to get talked into the Chargers again because I'm a moron and I'm just going to like be super stubborn. But there's another team I like in that division. Unless we think Russell Wilson is completely fried, which, boy, did you hear about this scandal with him with this foundation and charity that he got, Alan?
I saw the headline. I did not read into it, but it is very concerning.
I don't know, man. What's his name? Mr. Comfortable? Mr. What's like his nickname?
I don't know.
Mr. Unlimited. It's Mr. Unlimited. Yeah, he might have to pay up. Oh no.
This year. Yeah.
But yo, Sean Payton. I think that could be a little something at 35 to 1. That was one. The Jaguars was the other. The Jets was the other. And then, dude, call me crazy. I think the Bears can make some noise next year. Not talking Super Bowl, but 75 to 1 Chicago. They could get a shitload of picks for that number 1 pick, dude. I love Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields is an awesome quarterback. Another young guy, get him some more weapons. They have a ton of cap space. You can package that first round number 1 overall pick you have. You don't need to address a quarterback, and you could build around him, spend some money, get him some real weapons, maybe package some trades to get a T. Higgins or a Brandon Ayuk, something for him. I think the Bears could be really, really sneaky, man. Those are some of the teams that I'm just keeping my eye on. I'll be like, let's pay attention to these.
If I'm the Bears, I'm doing everything possible to exploit the Colts. Make the Colts give me 8 picks because I think the Colts are going to be really desperate to move up. So if I'm Foles, I think that's his name. I'm blanking on his name right now, the GM of the Bears, but I don't think it's Foles.
Poles. Ryan Poles.
Holes. There we go. Poles. See, just one letter. Damn.
Yeah.
But I think they have to get like a big coup because look, that roster needs a lot of work. I understand where you're coming from, and I do think the NFC is the land of opportunity. I don't think you have to be particularly good to make that playoffs in the NFC. We saw how fragile it is. So I could see why you're into it, but man, they have to try to pull off something to bolster that roster because there are so many holes.
Yeah, we have a long way to go. We do have free agency in a couple of weeks, and then before you know it, it'll be the draft, and then we'll be back in the swing of things once again. But it's just something important to monitor. Look, it didn't work out this year, but I bet the Chargers to win the Super Bowl right after free agency when they got their guys. I bet the Rams to win the Super Bowl right when they got Matthew Stafford. you don't really need to wait until Labor Day weekend to put all your bets in for futures. And I'm a futures guy. I like risking a little bit to win a lot. Uh, Justin Jefferson won Offensive Player of the Year. We were both on that one. That was a nice future, 16-1. And it's going to be, look, the NFL has really become a 12-month sport, bro. So I'm excited to see what happens in the offseason. A lot of big names could be on the move. And there could be some massive ramifications throughout all the divisions and the conferences. So I'm excited. I do want to thank you once again, Alan, for coming on the show and rocking with us during the football season. I'm
Oh yeah.
pumped to get you to come out here, bro. I can't wait. I know we'll have these conversations in the near future to get you out here. And yeah, shout out to everyone last week who shared and posted the show. Meant a ton to me and to the brand, helping us grow. It's the best endorsement we could give, right? Like I don't listen to anyone else. I don't listen to celebrities that tell me to go and check something out or buy something. It's more peer to peer. If Alan comes to me and he's like, yo, dude, I listened to this pod that I think you'll like, that means a lot more to me. So it's the best way to grow the show organically. So tell your friends about it. We're doing a little bit of a rebranding, going to change the logo up, which I'm posting it on Patreon. If you guys could go over there, patreon.com/veterans minimum. It'll be open for everyone to go see and comment and leave a review on it. And let me know what you guys think of this new logo. I want you guys to approve of it and you guys to accept it before we go live with it. And yeah, I'm excited for this offseason. You guys know we always like to get a little funky and experiment. And we'll be back on Wednesday with another episode. At Nick Day10 is where you can find me. Veteransminimum.com is you can find all things VM. And Alan, tell the people when they can find you.
Alan Sturk, ALLENSTRK.